Have you lost weight only to gain it right back after returning to your routine? Did your diet work for someone else but not you? Rockin' That ID Life helps you understand your genetic makeup to find a lifestyle that fits your needs. Together, you and RockinThatIDLife.com can focus on your health and meet your goals today. That's RockinThatIDLife.com.
Center Ice Brewery is a proud sponsor of Let's Go Blues Radio. If you haven't heard, Center Ice Brewery beer is now exclusively available at beer stores around town. So make sure you pick some up on your next milk and eggs run. That's Center Ice Brewery. Please drink responsibly. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 30 of Let's Go Blues Radio. We're the often imitated, never duplicated, we melt in your mouth, not in your hands. We're the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast. Special thanks to RockinThatIDLife.com and CenterIceBrewery.com for proudly sponsoring the show. Please check them out. It's Tuesday, April 5th. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook. This is franchise episode number 348 all time. To interact with the show, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just do a search for us. You will find us. I'm Kurt Price. My co-host for tonight's big show are Bill Day and Jeff Ponder. Tonight we will be discussing the successful 3-game Blues road trip, followed up by a nice win versus Arizona. Some feel our goaltending situation is a problem. Is it? And we'll talk about the playoff situation and who we would like to face in the playoffs. All that and more on Let's Go Blues Radio this week. Guys, welcome to the show. How are you on this fine Tuesday evening?
I have to take some umbrage with what you said.
Oh, what?
I melt in your mouth as well as your hand.
Okay. All right.
I don't know about you jokers.
I'm not even sure what that means, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
5-2 Nashville now over Minnesota with 3:50 left in the third. And I guess
that's what we're all rooting for here, right? Rooting for the Preds here.
Yeah, depending on who you are, I guess, as a Blues fan, that's a good thing. Some not so much, which we'll talk about.
You
later.
Want the Preds to beat up on the Wild. I think they play them 1 or 2 more times this season, too.
Yeah, we play the Wild twice coming up, too. So,
yeah, including Friday night.
And then next weekend. Oh, yeah, I had a busy evening. I had a softball practice, and then we went and played some pickleball. Kids want to play some pickleball. I'm like, I got a show to prep for, guys. Okay, we'll get about 25 minutes of pickleball in, and then, of course,
an
it's
hour
Taco
later,
Bell. And it's like, we want some Taco Bell. All right, on the way home, get some Taco Bell. That'll save me some time making dinner. So that's what we.
This is why you don't have kids.
Yeah, they're just a problem, right? It's just a
need,
right,
Bill?
need.
Bill
want,
gets it.
want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I too had a very busy day, but I was able to walk in about 8:30, pet the dogs, give them a couple treats, eat my dinner, and give them a couple more treats, and that was it.
I did the same thing with my son.
That's essentially what you do with kids too. It's just pet them,
right?
Pet them.
You feed them. Tell them, hey, you've been good today. Okay, go to bed.
Make sure they, make sure they move their bowels a few times a day, and
that's important.
See, I think that's where the dogs have the advantage because they're going to do it no matter what and no matter where.
That's true.
Right. Well, you know what? If you lock your kids in your room, they will eventually do it in there too.
Yeah. I've had experience with that.
I don't use that term too. My grandma is like, every time I'd go over and visit my grandma, she would ask, one of the first things she would say, it was almost every time, say, hey, how you doing? How you doing, Kurt? Oh, I'm doing good, grandma. Have you moved your bowels today? That was good old Grandma Sunoka. And I looking back on him, it's the funniest damn thing. But she was very concerned about the bowels and the movements.
And to make that a point of conversation, probably for everybody in the family.
You're right. I mean, yeah. I remember that enough. She asked that enough for me to think it was pretty common. So, and I was
my mom still not so much anymore, but my dad always had the worst habit of literally forgetting to eat. So if she wasn't around, he would just not eat lunch or not eat breakfast or whatever. And so she would always ask him, Stan, did you eat lunch today? Oh, hell, Mary, I forgot. And so she made a habit of asking me and my brother all the time too. So literally I was like 25 living with my friend, and I would get a text from my mom. Did you remember to eat lunch today? Yeah, Mom, I'm not dad. I'm not an idiot. Like,
It
and so my friends still to this day, like my friends that I had back in those days, they'll still be like, Jeff, did you eat lunch today? And I'm
yeah,
just like, shut up.
it's funny though, because that's a thing though. It's a generational thing where the grandparents they insist on feeding you like as much as they can, and I assume that stems from depression era stuff where you make sure you get food, make sure you're always you're not going hungry, have it
Yeah.
better off than we do. Oh, you have food, eat food, eat while you got it. Can I
Mm-hmm.
get something to eat? No, I just ate. Oh, here, have something. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
you'd think that like had the internet and apps and things been developed maybe 25 years earlier, there would be one that would remind you to eat.
That's
Eat
true.
now.
I have never been. I mean, I don't need to be reminded to eat necessarily, but there are times where I'll be sitting down to eat and I'll be having my dinner and I'm like, oh, I'm like almost done. I have no drink. I've went this entire meal and not had a beverage, which is I've had that
I
happen,
mean,
but not so much an
there are
entire
times when
meal.
I'm working that I do forget lunch. It's a little easier to remember working from home now, but like, yeah, there's literally been times like back when I was working for Total Hockey in their marketing office. It was, I'd have my head down working all day. I'd have to run back to the warehouse and get something, come back. Oh, it's 4 o'clock. Oh, I never ate today. Oh, well, who
Wow.
cares? I'm
See,
leaving in a half hour.
that's interesting because I mean, lunch is like we always go out for lunch at work. I used to bring lunch a lot at work, but now it's almost like an event. It's like, okay, oh, it's like it's 11:30, 12 o'clock. I'm like, okay, we got to start talking about where we're gonna go. We have no idea. It's like a surprise. It's something to look forward to. Okay, we got who knows where it could be a sandwich. It could be something. It could be like a Crazy Bowls. It could be I don't know
We're,
barbecue. Who knows?
we're going to Doc's
Rhonda's.
again.
We're going to the Sizzler, the Docks. Yeah, went to Docks the other day. For the first time I've been there since they moved, and they moved like 2 years ago. So
That's crazy.
yeah, we used to go there every so often. I like Docks was good. I like Docks.
Yeah,
I like
I
Docks.
thought Jeff. Yeah, I thought Jeff, your cousin, would like enforce that. Or he's still a big bandanas guy, right?
I'm a big Bandanas guy too. We haven't been
Yeah.
there in a while either.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's more Crazy Bowls, Lion's Choice kind of person. Which we do Lion's Choice, but once a week. To be honest.
Yeah. See, that's it used to be when I would have days off, and it's been quite a while that I would look forward to trying to go to lunch with you guys, but it's been years since we've done that.
Yeah.
So I almost never go out to lunch. And my thing, when we were in the office before, my thing was always I'd keep a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at my desk, and just because I
Those
could
are
make
good.
time for that. Right, I make time for that. I did that. Now we don't have assigned seats. We don't have storage. We're not supposed to bring and keep food. So now I've been making a sandwich, and 3 weeks in today I forgot my sandwich and had to make the hike over to the cafeteria. And it was good, but you can't get out of there short of $10. And
First world problems.
Well, where
yeah,
you work, it's a nice cafeteria. I know
oh,
all about that cafeteria.
it's amazing now. I mean, yeah, after they opened the new one, it's been great. But and they
Yeah.
actually they there's now an app that you can order ahead and stuff like that. So not
Oh,
too
cool.
bad. But when I work from home is when I typically forget to eat. Like, oh, it's 3:30. I better make a quick peanut butter and
I
jelly sandwich, or else
literally,
I'm going to
I
stop working.
I set an alarm on my phone now to say, hey, because if I don't, I will just be like, oh, I'll take it in a half hour. I'll just get this thing done. But like, I literally have been telling myself now, no, you are going to take a break every day. It's good for your mental health. And so I'll
Mhm.
go upstairs, make some food, go get food, or run
See,
an errand or whatever, and make myself get up and go do something.
working from home though, I mean, you don't, and there's no real set unless you have like meetings and things you have to schedule your lunch around. But most of the times I can take lunch whenever I want. Working from home.
Yeah.
on the days I do it from home. So it's like, if I want to take lunch at 11, I'll do it. I'll take an hour lunch or 12 or 1, whatever. So, yeah.
I wear shoes every day. People
Yeah.
ask me,
No pants.
what are your
Shoes and no pants.
well, and that's yes, exactly. It's so weird. No, I have
Dress
people that
shoes
ask
and
me,
no
like,
pants.
what do you suggest for working from home? And that's one of the things for me that has worked, that's kept me motivated, is like literally get up like you're going somewhere, put on, like, I wear jeans every day, t-shirt, nice shirt, whatever, and I always make sure I'm wearing shoes. If I'm wearing shoes, I feel like I can't just sit back at my desk and pass out, because I'm not just staring at a screen, I'm working. So that's something I've always done.
And mine was make sure, get up, try to keep as much of a routine as you're in the office. Get up, take a shower, get dressed. But I don't do the shoe thing. I went through 3 pairs of slippers during the pandemic.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I have to replace them now.
Ken Morris in the YouTube chat says 2 of my 3 favorite YouTube channels are from St. Louis. Let's Go Blues Radio and The History Guy is apparently from St. Louis, which I have not heard of that. I'd be curious to see what that is. And then Jay Leno's Garage is his 3rd, and that's from LA. So, and Matt Harris says, evening, gents. Perfect timing. I just got off work. Just enough time for me to grab a beer. There you go.
Perfect time.
Yep. Speaking of beers. Official beers of episode number 348. You can follow each of us on the Untapped app. My handle C Price 12. Jeff says Jay Ponder 94, and Bill says Billy Blue Note 33. Jeff, you were hanging by a thread there as far as going first for a little bit, but the ship has been righted. Yeah. So you go ahead.
So tonight I am drinking my favorite from our friends over in the Pacific Ocean, Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing. Just again, something. I had a friend, a friend who's actually from Hawaii, and I think I don't know if I've told this on the show or not. About a year and a half ago, we went to a brewery together, and he was like, "Have you ever tried Kona?" And I'm like, "No, I see it, never had it." And he's like, "Get it now." And I had it, and I'm like,
"Yeah,
this just tastes like I'm sitting on a beach." So good drinking beer.
Well, that's like heaven in a bowl. Yeah, for your friends, fans.
I'm sure it's a very famous baby.
Yeah, Amy likes Kona Big Wave a lot, so that'll.
Well, I like Amy, so there you go.
She'll bring that over, and there'll be like 1 or 2 in my fridge or whatever every now and then. So,
and Kurt takes them outside, breaks them on the driveway. And...
that's one of the things I miss about. That's one of the things I miss about poker nights we used to have. Was that when I host poker nights, leftovers, the beer fridge? I had a big beer fridge. Remember that in the basement of Fairview?
That was awesome.
Had the full size fridge, and people would bring over their beers, a 6-pack or whatever, and they'd have a few during the poker night, 3 or 4, whatever, and then there'd be a couple left. And that fridge, eventually, there was probably like 15 different kinds of beer in there, like a couple bottles of each. This was a nice little variety. There's a little store down there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something
to look forward to. Yeah. When the kids go off to college and we get back into that stuff.
Yes. When life slows down and we get older, maybe after we retire, hopefully early, right? And then we can just have like weekly poker nights.
Yeah. Go golf in the afternoon and poker like 3 nights a week.
Poker.
That's
damn near killer.
Retirement.
Bill, what is your beer?
We're talking about beer.
Where is this? It's like trying to plug in a USB plug, right?
Exactly.
It's always the wrong way first. Every time.
You caught me off guard. I had this a couple of weeks ago. It's Heavy Riff vanilla coffee underbrown. So brown ale with vanilla and coffee, and it is very good. For a coffee-based beer, it's not too terribly heavy, 6.5 alcohol by volume. But if you've ever had Velvet Underbrown, that's their flagship brown ale. It's awesome. Almost every restaurant you go to in the St. Louis area has it. This is a great variant. I've enjoyed it. I've got 1 more left. Looking forward to that next weekend.
The first time I had Velvet Underbrown was at Flying Saucer, rest in peace, in St. Louis.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
It's a good plot. Good spot.
it was a great spot. Before
Right
Cardinal
by
games,
Bush
hang out there.
too.
You walk to the
Yeah,
Cardinal game from there.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cardinals or Blues games.
Yep.
I think I went there for more Blues games than Cardinals games.
Yeah. I know you could see Bush Stadium from the almost.
Yeah.
I think you could. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
From the patio.
Yeah.
Oh, Moose.
Yeah, it was a casualty of Ballpark Village. I
Yeah. Well, but Wheelhouse seems to be doing okay. It sounds like I guess they're coming out of
Yeah.
COVID, so they should be doing okay. They're not breaking any laws and ordinances and like left and right.
Well,
Bunch of
every city
jackasses.
needs a place. Right?
Jesus
Every
Christ.
city needs a place for STDs to get passed around.
Oh, well, usually that's my house.
Hmm. So you're a
So
satellite of
before
the
Kurt-
Wheelhouse.
Before Kurt goes, Matt Harris has my beer of the night is a mixed drink. I've always called it the Triple F. What would be in the Triple F?
If it was Triple H, obvious, right? Hops, but Triple F.
Mixed drink.
We could speculate.
Oh, a
till
mixed
the
drink. Okay,
cows
yeah,
come
mixed
home.
drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mixed drink. Triple F.
Triple Frangelico. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Frangelico.
We'll let him tell us. Go ahead, Kurt.
Okay. Mine is the one of my favorites, and I should probably finish these up before we get too far into spring and summer. Is the peanut butter chocolate milk stout.
Nice.
Absence of Light from Four Hands in St. Louis, which I think we will be at on Friday.
I was going to say we might want to bring that up because it's kind of becoming a slight Let's Go Blues Radio get together, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if Bill's coming. I know you and I are going.
Yeah,
I am going to do my best to be there. I will try to cut work off at 4. You guys are talking 5 to 6.
Yeah.
I do need to get by the hospital to see my mom, and then after that, I will try to pop by.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to hang and watch the Blues game at Four Hands, they have a nice place to watch the game up in their tasting room. They have they project 2 big TVs up on their wall behind the bar. The game will be on. Is there a Cardinal game that night? There is. Or the opening night's Thursday.
No,
they're
not.
off
No,
Friday, right?
they always take
Yeah.
a day off.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the that should be the only game in town, right? March
Yep.
Madness is over, so that they'll have both games up there. Hopefully, both screens on
Yeah,
the Blues game.
We're planning on getting up there, about 5? And
Yeah.
I know our friend, Dr. Nighthawk, she's the one that kind of put this together. She's in town. She's normally in Denver. I know she's going to the game, but I think we're planning on hanging out and watching the game there, right?
I'd like. I mean, I might as well, hang out, have a couple before the game. I think she's going to take off and go to the game and hang out and watch the game beforehand and play some free arcade games and drink a few beers.
Skee ball.
Play pre-Tyson Punch Out.
Might, yeah.
Yeah.
Tyson Punch Out. Galaga is up there.
Mm-hmm.
Dig Dug, I believe. There's a multi-cade, like a 6 games, something like that. So good times, good stuff.
Yep. No, it should be fun. So yeah, if you're not doing anything for the game Friday, or if you're going to the game and you want to go somewhere for a drink before, Four Hands, it's downtown, right off. Is that 44? It's right off of.
Yeah.
Farty Far. And right there. And we'll be there probably starting around 5. And at least the 3 of us will probably be there till the end of the game. So if you're not doing anything, come join us. Should be fun.
Yeah. Hang out, have some beers, play some arcade games, watch some hockey. It's a good time. Today in Blues history, courtesy of the @STL Blues History Twitter account, April 5th, 1986, the original Blues owner, Sid Solomon II, dropped the ceremonial first puck on the 20th anniversary of being awarded the franchise. Bernie Federico recorded 100 points in a season for the 4th and final time in his 3rd straight season. And in the St. Louis Blues 7-5 win versus the Chicago Blackhawks. That Sid Solomon II, that was the younger, right? Yeah, because the older, Sid Solomon was the elder, and the younger guy was the second. So he died with cancer, right? Had cancer, passed away. The second.
I believe that's correct.
Not too long after that.
Yeah, hopefully STL Blues History can can correct us
No.
on the Twitters tomorrow or after he podcasts this.
Well, let's see. The
If we're
third
wrong.
died. The third died in Tampa with cancer. So I don't know about the second. Well, anyway.
There. You can look it up. I will go on the next one.
I'm looking. I'm not. It's hard to find.
Yeah, well, I imagine. Happy 56th anniversary. So that's April 5th, 1966. The NHL granted the St. Louis franchise to the group led by Sid Solomon as the St. Louis Blues' name was born. So April 5th, 1966 was the date the NHL officially granted St. Louis a franchise. So, people think of 67 as the year they started, which is the year they started playing games, but 66 was today's date in 1966. The St. Louis received the NHL Blues, the St. Louis Blues.
Sid Solomon Jr. apparently died shortly after this game. It was May 24th.
Yeah.
I am not seeing his cause of death, though.
I thought he had cancer, but
yeah,
that gets half the people out there anyway. I mean, it's a good guess. Right. And happy birthday to Blues beat writer for The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford.
Yes. JR, happy birthday, buddy.
I don't know.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the shoe.
I think he's 32.
I think he's older than Erica Weston.
20. Oh,
that is probably true. Happy birthday, JR. Hope he had
happy birthday, JR.
It's kind of nice when that falls on a non-Blues day for him. I think he probably was able to spend it with family, so pretty cool.
We were going to have him on as a guest a couple shows ago. We had to bump him for Erica Weston. So,
Yep. Sorry, buddy.
Story of his life, right?
That's right.
All right, so we're gonna get into the Blues road trip a little bit. They took 5 out of 6 points on a road trip, and then we'll discuss their win versus Arizona after we hear from our friends at ID Life.
You don't live your life like the guy you see at the gym powerlifting 7 days a week. You also don't live it like the cycling class instructor or the vegan who gets her steps every day. So why go to the vitamin store and try the same stuff they're using and hope it meets your needs? Newsflash, it doesn't. RockinThatIDLife.com is here to help you better understand how you respond to food and exercise. Their supplements are developed to make sure you're using quality products you can trust to achieve the results that are meaningful to you. Is your goal to improve overall energy, achieve deeper sleep, lose or gain weight? The answer to all of those options? Rockin' That ID Life can help. Our friend Dustin at RockinThatIDLife.com is here to help you do life better and achieve your goals, not someone else's. Get started today by visiting RockinThatIDLife.com or emailing Dustin at RockinThatIDLife@gmail.com and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you to receive 10% off your order. That's RockinThatIDLife.com and start your betterment journey today. Well, folks, you just heard from our friends over at RockinThatIDLife.com, and I did get a message from our friend Dustin, actually just yesterday. There's a new product coming out. He says, well, this is directly from Dustin. I've been looking to feel lighter, healthier, and more energized. Luckily, Rockin' That ID Life introduced their new Detox Box. This is a 3-phase program that helps detoxify the body's natural filtration system. This 30-day program allows me to absorb all of my ID Life products to the fullest. Join me in maximizing our fitness journeys. I wish it was a fitness jersey. Join me in maximizing our fitness journeys. Pre-sale is available now over at RockinThatIDLife.com. So that's the Detox Box. Actually, I looked. I think they might actually already be available. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, check out RockinThatIDLife.com, and then in the little navigation at the top, click the Detox Box to find out more information.
I like how our ID Life segment comes right after our beer segment.
Right.
To follow it up.
Yeah. Right. And then we cap it off with another beer segment.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much.
A couple of comments, YouTube chat. Ken Morris followed up and said, if you love history, you will love the history guy. He says he lives in the St. Louis area, but technically it's O'Fallon, Illinois. Huh? Even closer to us.
Only losers live in O'Fallon.
His name is Lance Geiger. I got me scared there for a second.
Yeah.
Lance Geiger. Okay. Cool. O'Fallon, Illinois. Support the local guys, huh?
Yeah. Check that out. I am kind of a history buff, so I'm interested.
Man, I not long ago I finished up the World War II in color that
Nice.
Netflix had. And there's a few different documentaries like that on Netflix. Man, it's so good. Just I love like war history stuff. It's just so fascinating to me. And then to see it in detail and hear stories that I had never heard before, and video and photos they just haven't seen before. It was fantastic. It's good. Good watch.
Oh, then you're gonna hate what I'm about to say. So the wife and I have been watching The Weakest Link, the newest one with Jane Lynch as the host. Pretty good for those of you who might be interested. One of the questions that somebody got wrong: in what war did Americans fight people they referred to as quote redcoats? You know what the person said?
What'd they say?
The Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
Huh. Wow. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that was the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever somebody gets a question that wrong, that bad, you always hear the audience kind of go, "Ooh,
yeah."
Yeah,
I'm sure there were some redcoat supporters here in the U.S. at the time.
Right.
They were fighting in the Civil War, so maybe there was one or two.
Yeah, that seems like it should be a thing that for anybody that watches that show, that when something like that happens, it's just like everybody drink, right? So,
Yeah.
The show's Twitter account just tweets out drink.
Redcoat
Well,
sympathizers
funny,
is the term.
For anybody who has ever watched Jane Lynch, which she is perfect for that show because she's so quick to just make fun of people. She just instantly, the way she said the answer, she goes, "No, the Revolutionary War." And then she went to the next person. Ouch. You could tell even she was like, "Come on."
Derp. More that girl says Fireball for the F.
Triple F.
For the triple F. Yeah. And Matt Harris says triple F is Crown, peach schnapps, sweet and sour mix, topped with Sprite. Where's the F come in? Triple fucked?
No. Yeah, I guess you're triple fucked. That's all I can think that would mean.
Crown, peach schnapps, sweet and sour mix. Sounds good.
Schnapps.
And there's not even an F in that sentence.
No, not the whole damn
except
thing.
Except for the part that says triple F.
Right. So again, our question stands. Where does the F come in? What does that stand for? That was the question in the first place.
That's usually what I ask my wife. Where does the F come in?
So
I like your response to that.
No. Well, I thought you were going with a different letter. So as we transition so awkwardly into Blues hockey talk, the Blues had a 3-game road trip where they got 5 out of 6 points. They had a 4-3 win in Vancouver, a 6-5 overtime loss in Edmonton that was a salvaged point after being down 4-1 in that game, and then a 6-4 win at Calgary. So I think overall a successful road trip. But I think I have in here, does it feel like it? Because, taking 5 out of 6 on a trip, always good, right? If you do that consistently, you're going to be in good shape. But it almost feels like the fan base is like, okay, all right, but you've been inconsistent. We're waiting for the bad games to come now, right? We're waiting for you got to do this over the long haul before we're no longer gun shy about rooting for this. You know what I mean? Because it almost seems like this team, even though they've played well recently and gotten after the Arizona win, 7 out of 8 points in the last 4 games, but it almost seems like the fan base is still down on the team. I mean, is that the vibe you get?
Absolutely. If things don't go perfectly, this fan base is like, a lot of Chicken Littles, and this is just insane. And like, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but it applies to the goalie conversation as well, right? If you do not have elite goaltending, you have a goaltending problem. And it's everybody's manic. And I mean, to me, the first two games, especially being on Twitter, felt like, this is just a bad road trip. And I totally expected them not to get a point against Calgary. And when that happened, and you step back and say, shit, we got 5 of 6 on this trip.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Right.
I think overall, I mean, the trip itself, you look at the points, that's what you got to bank. And that's the thing about a good team is, even after people were kind of down after the games that we talked about last week with Philadelphia and Carolina and all that, teams not performing their best, but they're going out and playing good teams and still getting points. That Edmonton game, the way that game started, there is no way they should have walked away with a point in that game.
Right.
And that is one of those games where you walk out of that game saying, at least they got a point, we've talked about on this show,
but
and they surrender a 4-1 lead and people are like, oh, well, they still got a point because they went to overtime. No, they should have won that game. This was one that they stole a point, and that's what they needed. So but I will agree that, and I think maybe, and maybe I'll play a little devil's advocate with you two here is, maybe it's a little more realism coming out of Blues fans, because we talk about how quick people are in sports to react to what's happened recently. Like, what have you done for me recently? And we were just like, 1 week it's they're going to win the cup, and then the next week it's they're not even going to make the playoffs. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of like, okay, last week they weren't great. This week they were great. Let's see you do that consistently before we start getting too excited.
I think it's going to take great efforts and points out of these games against Minnesota. I mean, this game on Friday. I mean, we got Seattle next, but looking past Seattle, which fans can do, players shouldn't. But looking past Seattle to Friday against Minnesota, that's the biggest game of the season to date, based on if you're looking at standings. And then if they happen to win that game, then in regulation or even not, then we play Minnesota again the following weekend, and then that game becomes the biggest game, most likely, unless the games in between screw things up. But these two games against Minnesota, it's going to determine, I think, where the Blues finish. Minnesota loses tonight. The Blues actually control their fate. They can finish second because they have they're trailing Minnesota by 3 points. They play Minnesota twice coming up. They've played the same amount of games. So if the Blues beat Minnesota twice and play better or even than Minnesota after in the rest of the games, then they finish second. So if they beat Minnesota twice, that's the key.
I think part of the reason people freaked out maybe a little extra last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, when we were seeing the kind of the downfall of a team, was because at this point in a typical NHL season, you're looking at it and saying, well, playoffs are starting like next week. Right. You can't go into the playoffs this way. And I think, because in St. Louis, the weather's changing, people starting to wear shorts, windows down, and that's what you're expecting. But the difference is this year, there's basically an extra 2-3 weeks than we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Playoffs don't start until May this year. So, I think people need to kind of reel it back in. And, if we're seeing in 10 days the Blues slumping, maybe you start worrying a little bit. I think right now we're still in okay water.
I think people were starting to get overly irritated and living and dying on each game. A little way too early. Each goal. It's so. I mean, and I assume a lot of fan bases are like this. I'm not in the trenches of other fan bases because I've got enough to deal with Blues fans on social media. But man, oh man, if they don't live and die on every single goal, every single game, which as far as fan enthusiasm goes, it's great. But if you're looking for like intelligent reactions to things, or sane reactions to things, you ain't getting it, because uh, people were jumping off a bridge a couple weeks ago, with over a month left in the season. And it's like I kept saying, I'm like, guys, I mean, there is a lot of hockey left. Jeff, you said that in a conversation we had on Twitter with somebody, a lot of hockey left. And there was. I mean, granted, you don't want to, and people are saying, well, you can't just turn on the last second. I'm like, there's over a month to go. There's no last second yet. It's weird to me that people
Right.
were freaking out so early.
Right. And, I think it was a combination of the Blues' poor play and Minnesota,
Yes.
like just showing after the trade deadline, they bring in Flower. He doesn't even play a game and they just go on a tear.
Yeah.
But the thing with Minnesota now is, did they peak too early? And do we have the chance to find our groove?
Yeah. Well, they just went lossless, regulation lossless in 10, 9-1, lost tonight.
Sounds weird.
Regulation lossless. I don't know how to say it. Whatever. You know what I mean?
I think we have it. We have a new term here.
They got at least 1 point in 10 straight games.
Right. No,
there you go.
9-1. So they got like what, 19 out of 20 points.
Right.
So they did quite well, very well, and that shot them past St. Louis by a few. So, but they did lose tonight, and Fleury was in goal for this game. So, and it'll be interesting to see who they go with in the playoffs. Talbot's played well. Fleury's played well too since he's been arrived, except for this game.
Yeah. Since the trade, Talbot's just been lights out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's a completely different goalie.
Well, they split starts basically since they're on the streak they've went on.
And we could see them doing that in the playoffs. I think. I think that's what Vegas' plan was. We had I'm drawing a blank. Kevin Woodley come on and talk about this. That was Vegas's probable plan with Lehner and Fleury, but it just didn't work out because Fleury just went on a tear. I think that's what Minnesota's planning. You say, okay, this guy has a bad game, we'll just throw in the other guy, see what happens.
Right.
No, I get that.
You know who's not playing that? St. Louis.
The Blues. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. Husso's the guy. And we'll talk about goaltending more later. But that's a great discussion actually, because you'll get, I mean, anybody who has not viewed St. Louis, your Blues Twitter or Blues Facebook or whatever you want to do, you run the gamut of crazy takes on both sides of the spectrum with that. It's just up and down. Fans are all over the place with our goaltending, especially. So it's pretty funny.
Sorry, I've got a unfortunate typo from Matt Harris in the.
Yes, I just noticed that too.
Colorado clenched their playoff spot tonight. That was a close one. He means clenched, but type clenched. Sorry, clenched. Matt, I normally wouldn't call that out, but that's just a funny typo.
Yeah. They clenched it in their sphincter.
That's what I was thinking. Why is it a sphincter thing when you think clenched? Why isn't it your hand? Why does it have to be your ass?
It's just one of those, right? One of those sayings.
So after the Blues trip, they returned home to play Arizona. And this was not a trap game because the Blues have struggled against Arizona mightily for the past God knows how long.
The 15-game series we played against them last year.
Right. Which we lost.
I think we played the entire season against them last year, right?
Pretty much,
It did
56 games against the Arizona Coyotes.
And how close was that series to actually starting on Groundhog Day? And because it was February, right?
Yeah.
It was February, and we just kept playing the Coyotes.
Yeah.
I know.
We're not going to let them leave town.
Well,
just keep playing.
I made that GIF last year about that. It was the whole Groundhog Day playing Arizona thing. It's kind of funny. 5-1 win versus Arizona, and it was finally a good game against this team who was missing local boy and Swansea, Illinois native Clayton Keller, who fractured his leg about a week ago on a nasty looking awkward fall into the end boards. Is trying to beat the defense wide. Full recovery is expected, but he's going to be out 4 to 6 months, which is nuts. So he might was that next spring next training camp? next or
Yeah,
into the season.
He's out a while. It's a
Beginning,
shame.
like if it's 6 months, it's the beginning of next season.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Oh yeah. It's the fall. Yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
bad.
was it his right leg? Was his knee? Because his knee went in hard. I'm not sure which leg it was, because he almost did the splits, but his right knee went in hard. Oh god,
yeah,
looks nasty.
It's terrible.
Just unfortunate. And it's one of those things where if you ever
played, and he's kind of the
hockey,
catalyst.
Yeah, their best player.
He's their offensive catalyst. When he's going, the team does seem to play better behind him. And and they mentioned it a couple times on the broadcast last night how they're playing with like 10 guys who started the year in the AHL. I mean, that's insane. I know Arizona went into this year not with high expectations, but I mean, when you have a rookie goalie, you've got basically half your team is AHL guys. Shit, more than half.
Well,
damn, you don't stand a chance.
Right. The guy they played in goal last night, he's what, their fourth stringer, right? Because they unloaded the guy, was it Mackenzie Blackwood? Is that who they picked up from New Jersey? And traded him to Dallas at the deadline. The other guy. I don't know.
Who was that?
But anyway, their goaltending is not like they had Kemper last year, and this year signing in Colorado, their goaltending is just not great to begin with, and then when Arizona's starting a guy you've never heard of, it's probably not good. And on top of not having Keller, Chikrin's also out, so their two best players not in the lineup. There's no way the Blues could lose even a point in last night's game. Without this fan base losing its shit.
Right. I think if they had went to overtime against Arizona, or God forbid they lost in overtime, in regulation or overtime, it'd have been right back on the we suck. And I mean, and to lose to a team like that, who, if you go back and you watch the highlights and just analyze it, Arizona looked terrible. I mean, their defensive zone coverage was just apathetic. Just bad.
Not pressing.
By the way, Bill.
Carrier.
No, they're not
Bill,
caring about.
You were thinking Scott Wedgwood.
Best, yes.
Just wanted to go ahead and get that out there in case people listen to the podcast are like, Mackenzie Blackwood, you idiot.
Right. No, he's still in New Jersey. It was the other Wood that they had in goal. And Arizona claimed off waivers.
Yeah, they've used 5 goalies now this season. Vizmelka, Wedgwood.
Vizmelka took over number 1. Yeah,
and of course Carter Hutton, who's had some injury issues, and the guy last night, Przvetsov. Is that how you say it? Przvedov. Yeah.
So about the game last night, first period, there was no scoring. Blues could have had a couple goals. They, Saad hit the post on a open net, and I believe it was Tarasenko hit the net post as well. Who was it? Was
Steve Bushnevich.
Bushnevich, that's right. Bushnevich and Saad had open sides, and they couldn't bury it. Steve Bushnevich, yeah, right. Steve Bushnevich.
Bill is never going to let you live that down.
Speaking of Steve Bushnevich. So speaking of Steve Bushnevich, I was watching The Sopranos. I'm rewatching The Sopranos, and I forgot that Steve Bushnevich makes an appearance for about a season and a half in this series, which is Steve Buscemi makes an appearance in which I completely forgot, because I watched it back in the day. I'm like, oh yeah, Buscemi's in this. Scoreless going into the second period. Blues, I mean, they had so many chances first period. You're wondering in this game if it's going to be a chance where a thing where we've had all these chances, hit some posts, couldn't score, and then we give up the first goal, which would have been kind of like that would have been kind of depressing. But no. So second period comes along, and we get 4 goals in the second. Barbashev gets his 22nd from Rosen and Perron. This was a delayed penalty goal after Galchenyuk was checked and lost his helmet on the boards, which was a funny situation because he gets checked on the boards, and it looks like he's kind of skating towards the bench, like he's leaving the zone, and then kind of curls back into the zone and gets back into the play a little bit, and then kind of circles, and then referee's like, no, that's a penalty, because it's almost like he didn't know the rule, right? As far as
Mhm.
like, you either have to
Mm.
pick up your helmet right away and put it back on, or skate directly to the bench if you lose your helmet. And he did neither. So I assume he just is the brain fart or didn't know the rule or something. But
I mean,
Rose,
men's leagues have had that rule forever, and I had a situation about a year ago where one of my teammates, his helmet popped off, and he gets right up and then starts to get back into the play, and the referee's like, "Dude, go to the bench," and he just kept going, and he finally just blew the whistle. He didn't give us a
yeah,
penalty, but it was like, I think just the adrenaline's going. Sometimes you're just not thinking.
I guess. Um,
But
Rosen's
I think that also says a lot about why Alex Galchenyuk is in Arizona at this point after
Yeah,
having so many other opportunities in bigger markets. Just the mental game never came together for him.
yeah.
Rosen's shot was blocked by the defense, but went right to Barbashev, who was all alone at the side of the net where he put it in. Tarasenko scores his 24th from Thomas and Bushnevich. Uh, Thomas is 43rd assist at this point, and
Mm.
Bushnevich is 32nd. So Thomas is kind of tearing it up assist wise, which we all knew was uh, hopefully likely to happen. A little over a minute after the first goal by Barbashev, Tarasenko scored. So same side of the net, and this was left unprotected. Thomas from behind the net finds Tarasenko all alone at the side of the net for the fairly easy goal. Horrible coverage by Mayo, standing on top of the crease, looking behind the net at Thomas, not looking behind him at all. Didn't know where Tarasenko was, and he's covering nobody. And it's just a easy goal
And
for
it
Tarasenko.
and I'll say, like, and again, you're right. I mean, this was just bad coverage by the Coyotes, but at the same time, it was a pretty nice little, just very easy skating move by Thomas behind the net. It Every defenseman will read that as, okay, he's either going to stand back there or he's going to wrap to the other side of the net and try to pass it across the crease or hit the point. But no, he looked up and give him credit for awareness. He looked up and said, "There's nobody on my ass. I'm just going to flip it right back to where I came from." And
Yeah,
Tarasenko, being the guy he is, he knows where to be. He was right there, received the pass, one-timed it, just a perfect play by the two of them. Bad coverage, but I give props to Thomas
no,
for
it was
kind of having the hockey IQ to know what to do there.
it was a nice setup by Thomas, who took advantage of the miscue on defense, and that's what you got to do. You see, I mean, and generally, a lot of goals in the NHL are scored by somebody messing up a little bit or not having the best coverage in a certain area, and a team takes advantage of it. That's, I mean, really, an NHL game is a contest to see who makes the least mistakes, because mistakes are
Mhm.
made all the time. It's just sometimes you're burned and sometimes you aren't. So,
Right. And in a game with 11 AHLers suiting up
right.
for Arizona, chances are we're going to get those. But I mean, how much do you think there's possibility that Arizona watched tape on Thomas, especially that after the Edmonton game, the movie that he made, and 2-on-1, and just his skating, just he kept the puck, didn't score, but just set his skating is really starting to set him apart. And so there was the play, came 2-on-1 with either Bushnevich or Tarasenko, and held on to it and had a glorious scoring opportunity. And I thought one of the two of you at that point tweeted something about him being elite. And there was just a ton of reaction, like, "Oh my God, that is amazing!" Even though we didn't score, that is just great. And you wonder if that wasn't in Mayo's head on that play.
I think I after the game I tweeted that he was elite, because I was watching on DVR. I didn't catch up to live TV until late in the game, so I tend to be off the grid when I'm watching on DVR. I don't look at my phone too much, because I'll see you guys chatting about something about the game, or I'll get notifications like, nope, not looking. I got to catch up. I'm about an hour behind. So the third goal in the period for the Blues came on a power play from Braden Shen, his 20th of the season, from Perron and Letty. This is one of those goals where a player glides through the soft spot in coverage between the D and the O, and the pass comes from the corner for a one-timer. Common play in the NHL. It's extremely hard to defend. when executed properly. And the Blues did a great job on this. Pinpoint pass from Perron was needed, and he delivered with Shen when Shen buried the shot 5-hole with O'Reilly screening the goalie Prosvetov. So this was I love this goal. When this goal is scored on this type of goal is scored on us, I get mad because I'm like, you gotta watch out for the soft spot in the coverage. Defense come up, forwards come back, whatever. But it's tough. It's so hard to defend against this play because the timing has to be perfect. There's not a lot of room there between the O and the D, and you're gliding through, so it's got to be the timing has to be right, and it's perfect. Great goal. The next goal for the Blues, the fourth in the period, came from Steve Bushnevich. A shorthanded goal, his 24th of the season from O'Reilly. This was you could look at as a really bad play by the Coyotes or a really good play by O'Reilly or both. As the Coyotes were transitioning up the ice out of their zone, O'Reilly forced a turnover at the blue line, stick on stick check, and a puck came to O'Reilly took the puck into the zone, 2-1 with Bushnevich, and he set him up for the one-timer, and Bushnevich buried it. So as our 9th shorthanded goal of the season for the team. So that's
very impressive, and something that and I'll say I think O'Reilly, even when he was kind of slumping points wise earlier in the season, he's always been great defensively. He's always back checking. He's always there when the Blues need him. Great penalty killer. But I feel like the last week we're starting to see the next gear from Ryan O'Reilly. That was something we talked about, Kurt, I think 2 weeks ago, the list that came out from The Athletic about how he's just slightly off that mark of being that elite center the Blues need to make a big playoff push. And we even said we saw him break through in 2019 and be the guy they needed. Maybe we're starting to see that right now. He's starting to hit that extra panic button of, hey, playoffs are coming. It's time to up my game a little bit. I think he's been one of the Blues' best players the past 5-6 games at least.
I think certain players, and it was said by Shen and others, that this team was not playoff ready yet. They weren't playing playoff hockey yet, and they had to get there. And how many times in years past have we seen teams, really good teams, that you think, they probably should be having a better season than they are. They're having a good season, but not great. But then, but to start the season, they were one of the Cup favorites, top 3, 4, 5 teams, and but then the last quarter of the season or the last 20 games or so, they just kind of kick it up a notch and they elevate their play and play more like playoff hockey, so that when the season ends and playoffs start, they're ready to go. Because I think, and that's that. I don't know if some teams did that on purpose, or held back, or just weren't in the mindset, or didn't have that pressure, that desire, that need to play at that highest level until it became necessary. I'm not saying the Blues are there. They're closer to being there than they were before when they were inconsistent. But I think a lot will hinge on this weekend's games too. So we'll see about that. But I think the Blues might be doing that. They might be ramping their play up down the stretch, because it's been said vocally in the media, Shen especially, about how this team needs to get to playoff hockey. And they played a really good game against Arizona. So we'll see if they're going to, and like I said, we said before, that the game against Friday on Minnesota is going to be huge and very telling.
We've got some great commentary here in the YouTube chat I want to get to real quick. First of all, Ken Morris says Thomas Tank and PB89 are working well together, and Shen got to be one of the hardest working Blues. I think there's nobody in the world to disagree with you on that. And then in our talk about Ryan O'Reilly, Ken also adds ROR was tired from working the popcorn concession stand between shifts. I'll CarShield ad on BMSW. Yeah, that's a good commercial. And then Matt Harris adds, I think ROR has been doing all the right things everywhere on the ice except for scoring. It's nice to see him catching up in that area. And again, I think that kind of sums up exactly what I said starting this conversation. Then, we just didn't see him on the scoreboard, and now we're starting to see that. And it's like, okay, that's the one element of your game that was kind of missing. and he's been right there with everyone the past couple games.
Yeah, the hope, I think, like the deeply embedded hope for most Blues fans on this topic is that he knows when to turn the game on when it's time to start gearing up for the playoffs, and he's gonna hit his stride and get back to the Conn Smythe form.
I think that's something that, and like you said, Jeff, we talked about was a few weeks ago when the Athletic had that report card basically of the needs, the checklist, the things that the past 10 Cup winners have tended to have, and that elite number one center the Blues didn't have. What you think would be O'Reilly, and I think we said on the show that it didn't really concern me that he wasn't at that elite level at the time because we know that he can get there. We've seen him get there. It's not that he's not that guy. It's just that he wasn't having that type of season yet. So I wasn't really concerned. I thought, he could get there. So, and he's getting there. He's been fantastic. And there are other elements to his game too, like you said, very good defensively. So hopefully he keeps it up and we can finish the season strong with him as a number one center, elite number one center.
Yeah, Jason Miller in the YouTube chat says, "Yeah, I think Buffalo fans were starting to talk about winning the trade again."
Well,
I mean, Tage Thompson has had a hell of a season.
He's had very good season,
yes.
right? You still don't trade Thompson for O'Reilly though if you're Buffalo.
Right.
This might be the first time that I've ever given this to him, but crappy goalie, congratulations, you get comment of the show. I like that. Also, crappy goalie, I don't know if you heard if you tuned in early enough, Four Hands Friday night. You're usually my go-to guy for that kind of thing. So hopefully you'll be down for that.
Yeah. Four Hands Friday night, 5-ish.
And Matt Harris says Buffalo clenched Blues legend Tage Thompson.
I think clenched and what was the term you had earlier, Kurt? I think those are new terms we're gonna start using.
Oh, more. I don't know. What did I say?
Losing, what was it? Losing and loseless streak in regulation.
Lossless streak.
Lossless streak.
Whatever.
It's like they're an HDMI cable.
So the third period, Nick Schmaltz for Arizona broke up the shutout, his 21st of the season from Deneen and Ritchie. Kind of a bad break on this goal. A waist-high shot from Deneen from the near boards that was going about 6 feet wide. Hits Falk's stick, redirects on goal, goes off Husso's pad, which was a pretty nice save. And then Schmaltz was there to put the rebound past Husso. So just kind of a fluky bad break against the Blues. Not a big deal. Just didn't get the shutout because of that. And then Tarasenko scores a little bit later on, about 7 minutes to go in the game, 25th of the season. Kind of just with every goal Tarasenko scores here, Jeff, it's like salt in the wound for your preseason prediction with Tarasenko.
You know what? You say salt in the wound, I'm all for it. I am happy to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong because I wanted him to stay with the Blues. There's that sentimental feeling of the guy who said, I'm going to bring a cup to the Blues, and he did, and I want to see him succeed. Even if he does leave the team, I still want to see him succeed. So, yeah, even though I said I didn't think he would score 20 goals again in the NHL, I was happy to see him get there, and I hope he gets 30. I think that'd be awesome to see.
Being wrong never felt so right.
That's true.
I guess
that's
whatever
correct.
That means.
I think that's the famous words of John Cougar Mellencamp, right?
I thought life is a highway. Those famous words.
That's it. That's it.
So life is a highway. Tom Cochran, and who's that?
I don't know.
Who's his best friend? Like he did the Pronger. He was in the Pronger tribute video. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Wait a minute. You're right. Yeah. Oh, there's a little tie-in. How about that?
Wow.
Of course, you're talking about Sean Pronger, not Chris Pronger. I'm kidding.
He was there too.
The greatest of the Prongers.
One of my favorite. I still haven't read it. I need to, but I think it was Sean. Yeah, it was Sean Pronger wrote a book or a blog that was called "Life is a Healthy Scratch," and I just thought that was a great title. Fantastic.
Jason Miller says, "Damn, he can't make it Friday. He has a father-daughter dance that night." So he's being the good dad.
You're dead. You're dead to me, Jason. Tell Nicole that I rescind all the nice things I've said to her about her hockey abilities.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
on Tarasenko's goal, Thomas got his 44th assist of the season. Bushnevich got his 33rd. Tarasenko was left all alone in the slot. Thomas found him right away, and Tarasenko buried the one-timer for the 5-1 lead, which was the final score. And it was kind of weird that this game was versus bottom feeding Arizona was a statement game from St. Louis in a way. Usually, statement games are against teams that are good, and you need to prove
Right.
yourself. But the Blues need to prove themselves against a shitty ass team.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny.
They proved it wasn't a trap game, right?
Right,
Isn't that what
Yeah.
what was proved in that game?
I guess.
Yeah.
And I think you brought it up earlier. You can't look past tomorrow night, right? You do not, for one, in
Fans can.
right. Fans can, but the
Fans
players can't.
No.
And you cannot. I do not think there's any way that you can start Bennington tomorrow. You do not start Bennington until the earliest. The second game of back-to-backs this weekend against the
Islanders. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you're gonna have people that are gonna say, "When's Bennington gonna start? God damn it, you gotta get him straight." But it's like, well, okay, whatever.
Maybe we should ask him because he didn't seem to start when he got the start in Edmonton.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but got to follow it up with a strong game against Seattle. Tarasenko has 37 points in 31 home games this season for a 1.19 points per game average. That's the highest for a St. Louis Blues player with a minimum of 30 home games since Pavel Demitra averaged 1.38 points per game on home ice in 02-03.
Who were his line mates?
Hesh and
nope.
Bartechko.
No.
Nope. And Jesus. No.
Nope. 2002, 2003. Come on, boys. Those were not his line mates.
Kachuk.
Kachuk was one of them.
That's good.
I
don't know. I can look it up.
Try to think of an example. You don't need to look it up. I know it.
I know you know it. I was looking up for me.
Don't look it up though. What if I said Rat? That's the only thing I could think of.
Mellenby.
Scott Mellenby.
Well, yeah.
That was his line that year. Kachuk,
Mellenby. Yeah, forget about Mellenby.
Was the Blues' top line.
They were
great together. That was such an underrated Blues line. And I'll add too, man. That he's gotta love. I mean, the chance of his name, the way people. I mean, at the end of the game when Pang's trying to interview him, there was a good 10 seconds that he couldn't talk because it was so damn loud. And they wear headphones similar to mine when they do the interviews. And he still was like, he still couldn't hear. These headphones are noise canceling. Yeah. He still couldn't hear. And he was like, well, give him a minute, let him chant my name or whatever. And it's so awesome to hear. Fans still give him so much support even after what happened last
And
summer.
Part of it is they want him to stay. Mm-hmm. And they're like, they're cheering him on. It's like, just like, hey, we love you.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
Just in case you forgot.
There's a little extra, in case you forgot, please stay. So he gets the loudest ovations for that stuff. And he's always very complimentary of the fan base first and foremost, and how great they are. He's always done that. And it's maybe if he decides he wants to stay, maybe you can say, hey, maybe it has something to do with it, just the gradual, the layer upon layer of the fan base just praising him and loving him and wanting him to stay. Maybe it has some effect over time. It wears him down, right, over time. So I don't know. We'll see. This offseason is going to be between Tarasenko and between Husso. This offseason. It's depending on how the season plays out with Husso in the playoffs. This offseason is going to be fascinating to me.
And you say just Husso. Let's say the Blues re-sign him. Then it becomes, what do you do with Binnington?
Depending on your cap situation, if Tarasenko leaves, maybe you have room for both, and maybe you just hang on to both. I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
We'll see.
If it's like $9 million in goaltending, $8.5 in goaltending, whatever. It's like that's not ridiculous. Dallas had 10, right? A number of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
well, Florida has they had 10 last year, right? Before they moved Drieger.
Right. And speaking of Dimitra, I mean, he's one of the most one of the most underrated blues players, I think. I don't know if people that newer fans, younger fans nowadays, who didn't have the pleasure of watching him play when he was here, how good he was. He was fantastic, but fantastic player. I really think that with how good he was here, how much the fans loved him, fan favorite, and of course the tragedy that happened with the plane crash. I thought he was a perfect candidate to have his number retired. I really did. But
Yeah.
it didn't happen. It's probably not going to happen now. It's just been too long. But um, I really think that he's. I don't know. If you haven't watched him play, watch video clips, watch old games, go to Ponder's YouTube channel and find games where he's playing in, and give him a look because it was a blast to watch. So much fun.
Yeah, he was. He really was.
The Blues now have 7 players with 20 or more goals. Tarasenko since 25, Buchnevich 24, Perron 23, Kyrou 22, Barbashev 22, Shen 20, and Saad 20. O'Reilly has 16 and Thomas has 15, so they aren't too far off. And on this show, we said a number of times that before the season started, that this team had an unbelievably deep group of forwards. I don't think that was anything, should have been anything groundbreaking or revolutionary of a comment, but it was just something we just like, hey, this is a deep forward group. And I thought it was one of the deepest they'd ever had. Arguably the deepest forward group they've ever had. And their depth in goal scoring is just proof of that. It's played out that way.
Well, and let's add in too with points. I don't know if you saw this. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I heard some of the radio call last night, and Chris Kerber brought this up. So in points, 62. So here's your leaders right now: Jordan Kyrou 62, Tarasenko 61, Thomas 59, Buchnevich 57, and then so that's 4 guys that are already over 50 points. Add in David Perron's at 49, Barbashev's at 49. Shen's at 48. O'Reilly's at 46. Saad's at 41, so he's got a little bit of an outside chance to still get 50. And then Torrey Krug, who is done for the season likely, but he had 35 and 57. Good chance he would have hit 50.
They mentioned that Krug was a little bit ahead of, like he was the end of the tunnel was in view for him.
Okay,
like he wouldn't be out too much longer, but we'll see.
I wonder what that was then. That's so weird. Well, who knows? Anyway, but I mean, yeah, so right there, you're looking by end of season, if O'Reilly, Shen, Barbashev, and Perron all hit 50 points, which I think there's a very good chance they do, you've got 8 guys on your roster that have 50 points or more. And then potentially 4 guys over 60. I mean, that's really impressive.
It is the deepest forward group we've had maybe ever. I mean, we've had forward groups with higher end talent that were top heavy, obviously, but I think balanced top to bottom, being dangerous. 3 lines that are dangerous.
Right,
and I was right, and right now a 4th line that is humming. So
right, that the 4th line, Nathan Walker, like. God, he should have been up here the entire season, I think. But him and McEachern and Torpchenko.
McEachern, Bill.
I got it right, damn it. But yeah, they've been great. But I mean, just think, go back to last offseason and what 2 big coups, bringing in Buchnevich for Blay and picks, and Brandon Saad on a free agent deal. I mean, those 2 guys, like you're subtracting 40 plus goals with those guys, right? And 80 points, not bringing those guys in just speaks volumes to how smart and, very, I mean, they were perfect signings or perfect moves for this team. That they are what this team needed from an offensive perspective. Obviously, we've bitched and moaned and still will about the lack of a defensive defenseman, But from an offensive perspective, this team is like, how long have we waited for this well balanced and offensive club?
I think speaking of the defensive issue, there was just a comment. Matt Harris in the YouTube chat said we need that solid D if we want to stand the chance. And I mean that goes without saying.
And the reason he says that is he wants Krug to sit until playoffs. He wants him fully healthy, fully rested.
Okay. I don't want them to rush him back, but again, I'm not sure. I'd like him to play a few games before playoffs start. I don't want him
you don't want him knocking rust off.
Yeah, I want him to play at least like 3 games before the season ends, before playoffs start to get back in the swing.
But I think, the important part of his point is that right now, if you can put, 8 out of 9 points together with Callie Rosen and Marco Scandella as cornerstone defensemen on this team, keep doing it, right? And that's again goes back to tomorrow night. You can't look past that game.
So speaking of the fourth line, what do you do on Bozak? I mean,
that's a tough question,
because they mentioned Bozak and Krug in the same breath as far as being close to returning or semi close to returning. Not that it's going to be like the next few games, but it might be in a couple weeks. They might be back. So
I think you wind up platooning. I think it'll probably wind up being Torpchenko the odd man out, because Berube's going to go to. I don't want him out. I'm not advocating for this. I think he's been he's been the diamond in the rough.
I've liked
draft pick. Fine, right? It would be great to see him. I'd rather have McEachern sit than
absolutely.
Than Walker or Torpchenko.
I think it's going to be Walker is the odd man out. Unfortunately,
I think so. Too. That's weird because he's the most offensively dangerous of the 3,
and he's the highest energy.
But he is the highest energy guy. But I also think when you look at tangibles, I think you can point to, okay, Torpchenko does this that the Blues need. McEachern does this the Blues need. Walker does the same things, does a great job. But I just think with the way Berube coaches, I could see him saying, okay, the lesser of the 3 is Nathan Walker, which some people would surely disagree with.
I bet you that the reasoning why, if they may do that, the reasoning would be, well, Walker's a smaller guy, and Torpchenko is bigger body, faster, will be more conducive for a playoff player, right? Fourth liner, and Bozak has the experience. He's the face-off guy, and I don't know. If it were me, I'm sitting McEachern, and I'd go with Walker, Torpchenko, and Bozak on the fourth line if Bozak gets in the lineup at all.
Right, and that's
gonna say there's a chance that Berube says we're playing well without him. Sorry, you gotta wait until an injury or something to come back, Tyler, because these guys are taking your spot.
He will get in the lineup, though. If he comes back a handful of games before playoffs, they'll get him some ice time. Just to see how he does.
They'll sit guys to make sure he gets games.
Sure.
But I'm saying when playoffs start, there might be a chance Berube says, sorry, Tyler, you're the odd man out right now.
Yeah. Well, if this is the worst thing we have to debate about is a fourth line issue, that's not too bad.
Right. If we wind up talking about, well, now you've got to slot Bozak into your 2C, then
that would be
right. All right. Next up for the Blues, Seattle Wednesday, and then we talked about.
I will be there.
Oh, you will be there. It's Wednesday against Seattle. All right, cool. No Jaden Schwartz. Shocker.
Yeah, he's hurt.
He's hurt again. Wow, what a shocker, huh? Always
hurt.
And then a huge matchup at home versus Minnesota on Friday, and then the Islanders on Saturday. So a game. Yeah. Bill will be there on Saturday.
Saturday.
I was gonna say. Okay.
Wow. So I'll be at the game Wednesday. We'll be partying at Four Hands Friday. for the game, and then Bill will be at the game on Saturday. So yeah, we got some Let's Go Blues radio representation for the Blues this weekend.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, the following weekend when the Wild are back,
Mm-hmm.
you guys. Well,
Kurt
I
and
don't
will be
know.
there.
I don't know. Will you?
You fucking better. FYI, and this probably should not be business done on the podcast. You can just give my tickets to Kurt. I think we're meeting up on the way there. So,
Okay.
yeah, don't worry about mailing them or anything.
Did we discuss this? Oh yeah,
I'll make sure that. I'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, we did.
I'll make sure that happens.
All right. Yeah. Or if we meet up Friday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Friday.
that's a good idea.
Forehands.
Okay, good idea.
So either way. We got to take a break here, but and on the other side of this break, Jake Neighbors played some pranks on played a prank on the Blues players, which is pretty funny. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll talk goaltending and our goaltending situation. Is it a problem? Some people think it is. We'll talk about that and who we want to face in the playoffs after this enlightening word from our friends at Center Ice Brewery. Do you like hockey? No, of course you do. Do you like beer? Of course you do. Are you 21? Let's hope so. If you answered yes to all of those questions, run on down to your local beer distributor and pick up a 2-4 of Old Arena Lager, the Beauty IPA, or any other delicious hockey-themed beer from Center Ice Brewery. That's right, Center Ice Brewery beer is available at various beer stores around town, so check around for the one closest to you. That's Center Ice Brewery. Let's go Blues. I just looked up and I saw on the YouTube chat, Light Sound Geometry posted, "Play Hot Man."
Play Hot Man. I mean, I'm playing a hot man right now. So, so's Kurt, so's Bill.
Yeah. What does that mean? I'm not sure.
You're playing a hot man.
I'm playing a hot man.
Yeah, like an actor. You're playing a hot man.
Oh, that kind of, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
I think I like knick-knack, paddywhack thing. Okay.
Well, that too, sure.
Okay,
so yeah, like you had mentioned there, Kurt. Jake Neighbors kind of made his way back to Enterprise Center, but not in the way that people would maybe think. For those who didn't see it, jump on the Blues social media. It was all over Facebook, Twitter. I think it's on their website too. Probably their YouTube page too. Yeah, that was awesome. Jake Neighbors on April Fool's posed as a fan. Came down wearing a hat, a jersey, had a sign that was asking Shen for a stick, and just a great prank all around. And we'll talk about our favorite moments, but for me, the best moments were seeing the people realize it was him.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Shen looks up and he's just kind of, giving the, a little side eye, and then it's like, oh shit. And same thing with Parayko. Parayko's like, oh, I know that guy. Like those were the funny parts. But Bill, you had mentioned you love David Perron's response.
I love the fact that Perron never figured it out. I mean, it's like another fan down here. But yeah, I'm just absolutely awesome, right? Perfect timing. The Blues are in Edmonton, where Neighbors plays in the same arena, right? They play there, the Oil King, and yeah, that it was so well pulled off. Get down to the glass, bang on the glass, call everybody by their nickname.
You're my favorite player. You're my favorite player.
And the other part I love is at the end, he's like, "Oh, it's pretty successful. A stick and 2 pucks."
Yeah.
What did Shen put? Shen signed a stick for him. And
it was,
Shen, what did he say on the stick?
Something about keep up with the diet, I think.
Yeah, keep up.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was good. No, that was just, man, again, we said this earlier in the season. The Blues social media team this season has been killing it. I know they hired someone new to interact with fans, and they've done the question of the day thing before practices. And this kind of thing they're doing, the Bennington dressing up in the player gear in preseason. I mean, all that stuff they've done has just been awesome. They've been killing it this season. So
Ruby's reaction to Bennington doing that was great.
Yeah, it was.
The double takes. What the hell are you doing?
You?
So much fun.
More,
they have knocked it out of the park. Like,
more.
just
They should do more of that too. Take it and run with it. You know, I've seen other teams do similar things with this kind of a thing where it's a dressed up fan and doing stuff. Players that are hurt or whatever, getting in and pranking the players. Just funny, just good stuff. Fans love it.
right. And it's not to say we haven't had great moments before, but they were all kind of impromptu, like roar bacon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, that's literally just from a typo.
Yeah, a
Right.
typo.
You know, like that wasn't something like the marketing department planned. It was just, oh, okay, he made this prank or he said this thing wrong, and let's just run with it. You know, like this kind of plain thing has been a lot of fun to watch.
And
Yeah.
speaking of war bacon, we talked about doing a watch party where we'll do the mystery hockey theater show, and we'll watch that game and do commentary while we watch that game. So that'll be a good one to do that in the summer, in the off season, right? So stay tuned for that. So it
would also be a fun one. Maybe I got that game on my channel from 1967 with the Maple Leafs. Could be fun to
1967.
try and watch that game. Yeah, there's a game I've got on my YouTube channel, Blues and Maple Leafs, 67.
Okay. I wouldn't know half the players.
Could be interesting. Yeah,
oh,
we would be watching it like, I don't know who that was, but that was a good play.
Lots of talk from fans about how Binnington needs to get right for the playoffs and how we'll need both goalies for playoffs. So, and I think people, you know, most Blues fans would say that we have a goaltending problem. Not that both goalies are playing well or the backup stole the starter's job and they're both playing well. And who do we play? Is the backup has taken the number one job and is playing for the most part pretty well, except for a hiccup there, a handful of games. But does Binnington have to get right for playoffs? I think we all know Husso is the guy right now. And if all things remain the same, Husso is the starter in the playoffs. Binnington is not going to start games unless Husso just falls apart in the playoffs. So a lot of people are saying that they're getting kind of irritated. They were irritated that he didn't start versus Arizona. And and if he doesn't start tomorrow or on Wednesday versus Seattle, you'll see some fans upset about that, thinking that we have to get Binnington right. So let's talk about it. Does Binnington have to get right at some point before the season ends, and how would the Blues go about doing that if they do?
I'll start. No, he doesn't. You just, I mean, it's not optimal to have to rely on one guy, but I think we did that in 2019 and it worked out pretty well for us. So, you know, if Husso stays healthy and, you know, doesn't go through a prolonged, you know, downturn, which seems like he's bounced back pretty well. You know, I always thought his numbers were going to regress to the mean a little bit because he was playing, you know, above his expected range, and he came back down to earth, but he righted that game in Edmonton. Right? Binnington was fighting the puck. I forget who said that on Twitter, but somebody pointed that out, and he totally right. He was totally fighting the puck. Didn't look comfortable in there. Put Husso in there, give us a chance, and he righted the ship. And we got the 1 point from that game. Then Husso beats Calgary. That was a difficult game. You don't need two goalies right now, right? It's optimal. You would love it. It's not optimal where we are right now, but I don't think he has to be right.
And let's add too that Husso, you know, he's had some injury issues in the past. That's the biggest reason he wasn't called up in 2019 and why Binnington was. So the way that I see it is, and I agree with both of you that that's a silly take to have. I've got some thoughts on goaltending I do want to talk about, but in terms of getting him right, the way that Husso's playing, you just roll with it. You got to let him go. He's your starter. He's the guy that's fit in very well behind this very lackluster defense, in my opinion. So you got to roll with it. And the way that I look at that too, for people who say, well, you got to get Bennington games, you got to get him right. Guess what? He sat behind Jake Allen for a month in 2019. Well, I guess 2018. And then started playing in 2019 for cold. Hadn't played against any AHL or NHL competition for a month. Guess what? Goes on a crazy roll. Not saying that he could do that again if Husso gets hurt, but he's proven that he can do it. So I don't think you need to worry too much about we got to get Bennington games. You know, we got to get him, got to get his head right, get him ready for the playoffs in case Husso doesn't play well. For one, the Blues have proven a rookie goal. Well, I don't want to say rookie, but a young goalie can come in and play great down the stretch when you need it. And two, Bennington himself has proven he can come in at short notice and play great hockey when he needs to. So, and that's when he played his best hockey. And again, I'm not saying he will do that, but to worry about that and say you got to get him games right now, I don't see that. I don't agree with that one bit.
It's interesting to me too that a lot of hoopla is being made about our backup goalie right now. I mean, I don't care how the season started. This is the way it is right now. Husso's the number one. Bennington's the backup. He is. If we're doing the number one, number two, which is clearly what it is right now, Husso is going to start almost every game the rest down the stretch. Bennington might get 3 or 4 starts in the last 13, 14 games, whatever we got left. I think it's 13, right? Might get 3 starts. And that's the way it's going to be handled. Now, if the team feels that Bennington needs more work to help his game, then they can send him down to get for a conditioning assignment with Springfield if that qualifies. Because
he'd have to be injured first for that.
What for conditioning, or just not playing? Because you can do conditioning. It doesn't have to be after. Don't goalies have an exemption to go down for conditioning if they haven't played in a while? No. Anyway, well, Elliot in 15, 16, when did they send him down for conditioning for like 3 or 4 games, and he came back up?
I think you're right.
He was. Elliot was terrible.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure there is some kind of emergency situation where it's like this guy hasn't played well, or this guy hasn't been getting the practice in, or whatever, and we can send him down for 3 games in the AHL.
And there's a maximum they can play before they bring him back up. Whatever they did with Elliot, was it 16?
Yeah.
15? They did that. They sent him down for a few games, and because he wasn't playing well.
13.
No, that long ago?
It was the lockout year. What was the lockout year?
I don't.
Which lockout year? There are too many of them. I can't keep them straight.
12, 13. It was 13.
Either way, doesn't matter. They sent him down because he wasn't playing. He was playing pretty bad for a handful of games, and they sat him, and he wasn't playing, and they sent him down to get some games in, and he came back up, and then he played so much better after he came back up. So if they want to go that route, assuming he qualifies, I look at the details, but that's what they could do. Send him down for a condition assignment with Springfield to get him some work. And maybe that would help him, work some things out, just get some games under his belt and just play through it, whatever. But with that said, that can't happen up here right now. Not if with where the standings are. If you want to try and finish second or at the very worst, hold on to third, you can't be giving Bennington a handful of starts just to try and let him work his stuff out. That part of the season is gone. This is not the time that it's asinine to me to suggest that you play your backup goalie in meaningful games down the stretch in a tight standings race, just trying to get him right. No, there are other options. You don't do that right now. Not with him.
Right.
Not now.
Right.
And so
I was going to say, I think the Edmonton game proved that. Right, that you don't go to him, and I would go so far as to say if the Blues drop a point either tomorrow or Friday against Minnesota, with Husso in net both nights, you go back to Husso and you don't put Bennington in there against the Isle.
Here's the deal with that. I think Bennington will get a few starts in the last 13, mainly not to wear out Husso. because to get him some break, get him some rest.
Agreed.
That's the only thing. They've started Huso started a couple games more than Bennington,
But
something
if
like that.
if that's the case, that was last night's game was the right night to do it. Right,
Okay,
Arizona.
I think the Islanders on Saturday
I'm gonna break this up. I'm breaking this up, guys, because I think I have the conditioning situation. So this is from our friends at pensionplanpuppets.com, which is a Maple Leaf site.
Right.
They broke. I guess they found the rule book and they kind of put it in layman's terms. The standard loan lasts for 14 consecutive days. The player is sent to the AHL, plays in whatever games he's assigned, and then returns to the NHL at the end. His salary is paid as if he's in the NHL, and the player counts against the salary cap and the 23-man roster limit. A team has to have the kind of cap situation that allows for enough players as extras to make this possible. So that, I think, is where it gets a little sketchy for Blues. Because they'd have to have, well, his cap hits 6.
Or you could just play
6 million.
Yeah, you could play short.
No,
too.
not Bennington. Lindgren. What's Lindgren?
You have to bring him up to back up.
You'd have to bring up a backup in Lindgren because that would not qualify as an emergency backup situation. So you'd have to be able to do that and be able to pay Bennington.
They have the Blues right now have 88,000 in available cap space. So they would have to play a player short.
Right.
They have to send somebody.
It's not going to happen
with Bennington.
They probably would. They probably wouldn't do it, but they've done it before this year. They played well when they played short. So
yeah, but I mean, is it worth it? Because you have to send them. Because that's the thing is you have to send them down for 14 days. So for 14 days, you're playing a player short.
A max of 14 days.
Jeez, I just clicked off it.
I think it was a max of 14 days because I think it was Elliott only played 3 games when he went down.
But that was also in a lockout year, so you have to wonder if they altered it to match the shortened season.
Tomatoes.
It says the standard loan lasts for 14 consecutive days.
But does it have to be 14?
So it's not a max. I'm thinking it's literally has to be 2 weeks.
Standard loan. Is there a different loan?
Okay.
And
I'll see what else I can
does it
find.
have to be 14? Can it be less? I don't know. I mean,
either way,
it's a good question.
I'm wondering if it'll happen. Who knows? But
I doubt it.
So
I would not expect
it. No, I wouldn't either. Here's my thoughts on the goaltending, real quick, and I'll get through this fairly quickly. After the Oilers and Flames games, I have kind of flipped my thoughts on this. I've thought play the hot goalie. That's what I've always thought. And obviously right now it's Huso. But I was a little bit on the side of let's get Bennington right. Let's get him some games down the stretch. I've flipped that a little bit. Now, here's my hope, and I'll tell you why. My hope is Bennington's traded this summer. Somebody will take him. I don't know with his salary if it'll happen. But it's clear to me Bennington is not fit for this team anymore, and it's nothing against him. The way that I saw the games go in Edmonton and Calgary, I thought, especially the first 2 goals, Bennington had no fucking chance. Absolutely no chance on those goals. One was deflected, was it by Scandella right in front of him, and the other one was just like 4 terrible turnovers in a row.
That was so, like overskating the awful. That was so bad.
Just awful. And and then he stops McDavid on a breakaway, and then he gives up 2 more that probably could have been saved, yes. But then let's fast forward to the Calgary game. I thought there was 8, 9 chances in the first 2 periods the Flames should have scored on. And I think if Bennington were in that, they would have scored.
Yeah.
And that game would have been 7-0 again, like it was the last time they played Calgary in Calgary. So my view is the Blues need a young guy who can come in and just slide across the crease and make ridiculous saves over and over with the defense they have. They don't have that in Bennington. Bennington's not that type of goalie. With this defense, you need a guy who can do that. I don't think that's Bennington. So unless you're planning on completely revamping the D, which I do think they should do anyway, I think you have to move on from Binnington and let Huso be that guy until he's completely worn down, and you have to get in some other guy who can
Uh,
come in and make miraculous saves over and over.
So I'll agree to a point, right? I think that I don't think that at this point Bennington's beyond redemption, right? I will say that I don't expect this team to go on the same crazy run they did in 2019. They'll have a little bit of with any luck, will get out of the first round. I don't see us going deep in the playoffs, just based on our defensive play, right? They made a huge defensive structural change this year, and it's Bennington hasn't figured out how to play in that system. Give him an off season of doing that, and then maybe if you can address the Scandella situation and unload that contract and bring in somebody who's more effective, maybe Mikola, in his second full year is going to be a little more effective like he was in the early part of the season. Things will get a little bit better. I think that the system and Bennington don't agree. And Brandy Capone brought up in the chat, in the YouTube chat, that she thinks that, and I've heard a lot of this, that it's the team doesn't play the same in front of Bennington. I don't think Bennington plays the same behind this team. I think he hasn't made I don't think he's made the adjustment to the team, trying to block less shots. And he's Huso, I think is turning out to be the more athletic guy. If Bennington's gone, right, I think it's still a good narrative in terms of the goalie history with the Blues, right? You had the guy you never expected to come up and won it in 2019, but the guy that was ahead of him on the depth charts comes back and surpasses him. I think that's a pretty good story still too, right? And so if next season, and I've seen a few people say this, if next season our tandem is Billy Huso and Charlie Lindgren, I'm good with it. But if it's Billy Huso and Jordan Binnington, I'm still good with it.
Here's where I am on Binnington. Huso. I'm totally gonna wait to as far as what I want the tandem to be on top of playoffs. I want to see how Huso plays down the stretch. I want to see how Huso plays in the playoffs, and then I'm going to formulate my opinion on what I hope the team does with our goaltending. If Huso plays great, regardless of what the team does, if Huso plays great, then it's I'm probably okay. It's Huso's the guy, and move Bennington maybe. Okay, or depending on Tarasenko's contract, whether you're with him, if he leaves and you got money there, when you try and replace him, is there money left over? Could you have room for both goalies? I think there's a lot of moving parts. I think it's going to be tough to move Bennington with his contract he has left, to be honest, especially if he's not playing.
And the contract doesn't really kick in until next year.
Yeah, so. So it's one of those things where you'll have to give up draft picks to somebody for if you want to move him. And here we go again, right? With a contract that ends up maybe not being so great, which
going to cost us.
At the time he signed it, it was like, okay, well, this is, comparatively speaking, it's a pretty good contract compared to what other goalies have signed for. But he's regressed this season for whatever reason. If it's because of he hasn't adjusted the defense, or if he's just coming back to down to earth from what he was prior to 19, who knows. But right now, I'm like everybody. I'm much more comfortable with Huso, and I agree with what you said, Bill. He's much more athletic. That's apparent. Yeah. He's much post to post. He's better. Splits wise, he's more Jonathan Quick like as far as like getting the splits and covering more down low. I think Bennington has always been slow post to post and not quite as limber as other goalies.
Yeah, he's definitely. I would say he's technically more sound as well, right? Bennington had he was plugged in. He was in a zone for an extended period of time, And the team, I think that team in 19 knew how to play in front of him, and he knew how to play behind him, and that's not the case anymore.
It's so interesting too, because when Bennington came up, it was the opposite. It was the team played better in front of Bennington. They had more faith in Bennington, which, coming off Jake Allen, you never knew what you were going to get with
Johnson.
him, and Chad Johnson. You never knew what you were going to get with either of those guys.
Right.
And there was Bennington came up and he played well, and there was some stability there, and it was confidence. And we talked about it to death about how your mindset is so different playing in front of a capable goalie as opposed to playing in front of a goalie you don't have faith in.
Right.
You play so much better, more confident as a player when you've got that behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ask some of Bell's old teammates. I'm just kidding.
Brandy says that she agrees with Bill, and she thinks there's a psychological part playing into the team, playing in front of Benner, and Benner not playing the best in front of the team in front of him. So
yeah,
on the same page.
And there's
frog protection,
right? Frog protection. Yeah. So I think the other thing, right, from a strategic standpoint, going into the playoffs this year, like the Blues aren't going to be a cup favorite going into it. Like, we're going to make the playoffs. We're, I forget what the odds are to get out of round one. It's not very good to get deep. So this is the year that you will want to expose Husso to the playoffs, right? He's the number one guy right now. You don't want to get there and be like, oh, you know what? Bennington did really well 3 years ago, so he's going to be our guy this playoff. This is the year you will start Husso. Unless he's injured, you have got to get Husso playoff experience. And so give him more, especially while we're still trying to get good position. You keep playing him. You don't wear him out. I will agree with that. I think you do have to start Bennington. But in the games right now where we're trying to catch Minnesota for that spot, you ride Husso as much as possible.
Weren't we all saying weeks ago that we wanted or we hoped that the Blues would sign Husso? We thought they should try to sign Husso in the offseason. And Rutherford came on the show, and Jeff, when you interviewed him, that he said that don't be surprised. He wouldn't be surprised if Armstrong's plan is to sign Husso in the offseason. I think it's interesting to me how many fans think that Husso's all but gone. I don't think so. I think it's, how do you go down the stretch with Husso as your number one and start him in the playoffs and then let him go? How do you do that? You got to do something else. You don't just let him walk. You can't. I don't know what you would do otherwise. If you let him walk and you go back to Bennington, who I don't know. I mean, you
have to hope that if it reaches an impasse by, let's say, draft day, that the Blues can still get something for Husso in terms of a trade for his rights. This will give you a couple days to try and sign him. But yeah, I think even that isn't going to happen. I think by draft day, we will see Husso locked up with Blues for, again, maybe it's only 1 year, maybe it's only 2 years, but I could see them saying, we need this guy right now. Bennington, we still think that you can put it together and come back and play great, but Husso was our guy last year. We're not just going to abandon that.
This is not a Belfour Turek situation where they let Turek walk, and because they have Belfour right blocking the way.
And in that situation, the Blues were the suckers, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
And then Jason Miller adds, "Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to read."
Is it all reasonable?
He says,
yeah.
Is it all reasonable to expect a team to take that contract? I don't see Army eating any of that deal. He doesn't do that.
No,
I hate to make this comparison because I don't think it's fair. But in terms of the contract, Matt Murray comes to mind. So I hate when people say, "Oh, Bennington's the next Matt Murray, wins a cup and turns to shit." We haven't had enough of a sample size of Bennington, quote unquote, turning to shit to make that comparison. But in terms of a contract, so Murray signed a pretty good deal with Pittsburgh. Ottawa was happy to take that deal and say, yeah, we'll give this guy a shot. Maybe he comes back to form. I could see another team doing that with Bennington. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
completely possible, but I think if you go to an Edmonton, you go to a
Right.
team that's really looking for goaltending, and you say, "Hey,
But
we got
Right.
a cup
How?
winner here. We're looking to move."
they've already said they wanted Huso.
Yeah. But
You're telling me they completely pass on Bennington, given what
right.
they have in goal right now?
That's a great
No,
point.
the Oilers and I, say so. And I want to point this out. I don't think we have a ton of Leafs fans that ever listen to our show, but the Leafs are preparing for the playoffs. Giving up they were up 5-1 and lost 7-6 tonight,
Yeah,
so
wow, I
they're
know.
in playoff form. Say they flame out. Say they flame out.
They're getting there. Right. That's awesome.
Right. They flame out first round, and Bennington, and it's on the goalie again. Bennington can still be an option there. Although the other thing I saw coming out of Leafs Nation tonight was, who else can you have on this team when you're paying Austin Matthews $17 million a year? Because I mean, he's gonna command that kind of money in that market. They just got to remember it's a cap team, and hopefully he'll buy into that.
I've said
But
this I've said this before with Toronto. I don't hate Toronto. I don't hate the Maple Leafs, but I do root for them to lose in the playoffs as early as possible, just because it's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
because some men like to watch the world burn.
Yes, I do. I love to see Toronto fans' heads explode again, year after year. And it's kind of a dickish move by me, because Blues fans were in that boat. We had great teams for a number of seasons, never went anywhere, always fizzled in the playoffs way too early. And it was just like, I'm sure some fans were laughing at us and that's funny. It's the same thing year in, year out. But yeah, no, it was, and I'm just waiting to see who they play in the playoffs, and I'm waiting to see it go 7 games in the first round, and just to see everybody freak out. Here we go again.
Yeah, we had a pretty fun time at their game 7 in round 1 last year, didn't we, boys?
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
That was
so
one of
great.
the most funs I've had. It's one of the most fun nights I've had since the pandemic started. That was a great time.
So Wednesday night against Seattle, who starts?
Huso.
It's got
Huso starts.
Huso.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
it's Huso.
Huso on Wednesday, Huso on against Minnesota on Friday, and then I think Bennington on
Bennington
against the
Saturday.
Islanders. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Bennington will see the back-to-backs. I think that's pretty much all we'll see out of him.
Yeah, although, like I said, from a strategic standpoint, I would not be averse if they drop a point, especially against Minnesota, to go back to Huso and let him go. He didn't look terrible. He didn't look fatigued after playing, two periods in Edmonton and then coming back the next night. You don't want to do that long term. So hopefully we get 4 points out of the next 2 games and can go to Bennington with a little more ease.
Right. So who do you want to face in the playoffs? So we got 13 games remaining, currently in third place in the division, 3 points by Minnesota, the same amount of games played. Because I'll update this because I wrote this before Minnesota's game tonight. So 6 points ahead of the Western Conference 1 wildcard team, which is Nashville. And Nashville has a game in hand. They don't no longer. They won tonight. So
they're 4 points
ahead of Nashville, right?
Of Nashville.
With the same amount of games played.
Yep.
So Nashville's a possibility. If they can get hot, Minnesota cools off. That was a big game for Nashville tonight. If they have any hopes whatsoever of catching Nashville or catching Minnesota, or us too.
I mean, ideally, Blues finish second, Predators finish third, Minnesota flames out.
That's and
I think that is
Calgary.
one of the more that is one of the more unlikely scenarios.
Right.
But I would love that in terms of, holy shit, boys, let's try to go to a playoff game in Nashville.
Oh,
that'd be a lot.
That is ideal. You play Nashville in the first round, highly unlikely, but that obviously, that's ideal.
Yeah, that we've totally owned UC Saros this year. So give me that matchup versus Talbot or Fleury.
Plus, you got to figure when if you're doing that, you're pushing Minnesota to the Pacific Division. So there's a good chance you're never going to have to see them in the playoffs because they're a good team too.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, I expect that we're going to play Minnesota, and I think it would
Mhm.
go at least 6 games.
Yeah.
But I think I don't like the way that we match up against their offense is so potent and our defense is so shit.
Yeah, it would
Uh,
be an outscore fest, is
yeah.
what that would
Yeah.
be. Who
Minnesota
scores the most goals?
lost tonight for the first time in 10 games. The Blues are 1-0 versus Minnesota this season. They have 2 games left against them. We talked about that already in the show. The next one being on Friday. And I think these 2 games against Minnesota will determine whether or not, we're gonna whether it be second or third, or whether they're gonna hang on and Nashville passes them. Whatever. Those 2 games are huge. The Blues have owned Fleury this season. Granted, Fleury played for Chicago, a terrible team, but his record was terrible against the Blues. So we beat him 3 times. But since he's been, and this is before tonight because he was in goal tonight for the 6 goals against. Before tonight, Fleury with Minnesota was 3-0-0 with a 1.34 GAA and a 9.58 save percentage. So he was playing well up until tonight. But and he's splitting time with Cam Talbot, and we talked about that. Who starts, Talbot or Fleury in the playoffs for them?
That's
That's
in as we were talking, I that's the one team that I think you can tandem, right?
mhm.
There doesn't have to be a clear number one, but I mean, and Talbot has done so damn well. I think you give him the first game, and but I wouldn't be surprised if
Yeah,
Fleury didn't steal it away from him
he's
with
been
how
your
great he
guy
is in the
all
playoff.
year. That's how that team is looking now. I'm sure is it's okay. He's been our guy all year. We got to go to him. The team believes in him. The team trusts in him. But at the same time, management saying, "Well, went out and got this other guy who's pretty damn good and has won a couple cups."
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Cam Talbot's on a short leash if
I
Talbot
think
starts.
you go Talbot. I agree with Bill. I think you go Talbot game 1. If things don't go well, pretty much a loss at any point. You go, okay, let's just
Well,
turn the other guy and see what he can do.
Fleury getting a loss tonight against Nashville doesn't help his case.
No, definitely not.
So in terms of who do you guys act like, and I'll answer my own question first. Who are you wanting to see? Obviously, we all agree Nashville would be nice for many reasons, not just who do you want to beat or who can you beat. We think that would be a fun series. But I'm all for taking on Minnesota too. I don't want to go to the East or to the Pacific Division bracket as a Western Conference, or I'm sorry, a wild card. I'd like to see the Blues stay in the Central playoffs, and I think they would stand a good chance against Minnesota. And again, like the Nashville series, I think that'd be a fun series to watch. You hope the Blues defensively could pick it up a little better, and you hope Husso's going to come up with the big saves. But there's going to be a lot of offense in that series, and I think that could be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean I like I said, I expect it's going to be Minnesota. I prefer Nashville by far. The other thing I was just looking at is, so right now it would be Dallas versus Colorado, and that could be a bit of a trap. Because remember what
It,
Colorado did against Dallas in the playoffs when Dallas went to the final in the bubble, right?
Mm.
That Dallas had a way of
and
playing against
Dallas,
them that shut them down.
yeah, and Dallas has the way they play is like they wear you down throughout a game. In a series, I don't want to play them.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys. I would love to see Nashville in the first round. Don't think that's going to happen. Perfectly fine with playing Minnesota. I don't want Calgary. Some people are wanting to play Calgary. They're wanting the Blues to go to the West and play in the Pacific. In the first round, get that first wild card and play Calgary. I don't want that. I don't know what they're. I don't think they've watched Calgary play this season.
I think
Calgary's
it's
good.
because people are looking at it. The Blues have against outside of that 7-0 loss, Blues have played pretty well against Calgary. But
Still,
again, playoffs
still,
are such a different animal.
I mean, if you look at a lot of power rankings too, I mean, they got Calgary over Colorado in some of these power
Right.
rankings. So it's
I do not want to go up against that top line.
No.
That their top line can destroy any team in this league. And I think if the Western Conference final comes down to Calgary versus Colorado, I would give it to Calgary.
Yeah, Minnesota, and then you take your chances with whoever's around too. Hopefully it's not
Yep.
Colorado.
Well,
But
and I'll be honest too. Like I don't want to go to the Pacific playoffs either, and say, okay, let's say the Blues do beat Calgary, then you're probably facing Edmonton in round 2. And I'm not saying Edmonton's a tough opponent, but Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, again with a bad defense, like a subpar defense like the Blues have, they could go on a tear in a series. So I don't really want to see that either.
I think my feelings about playing Minnesota. We played them once this year, so as far as how we beat them, like 6-4, I think it was, wasn't it? And but whatever the score was, I'm very. I mean, I want to play Minnesota as opposed to Calgary, obviously, but I think my reassurances of wanting to play Minnesota will be better defined after we play them in these next 2 weeks, right? Because then we'll get a better idea. Oh, if we look
Right.
good against them on Friday and again next week and match up well, and
Right.
play well, I think, okay, yeah, I'm much more on board with playing against Minnesota as opposed to.
We haven't seen them since the Winter Classic, have we?
Yeah, that's it.
That's true.
That's it.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's going to be telling, right? Those two huge games a week apart, and I love this time of year.
Yeah, everything's magnified. Everything's blown up important, and yeah, and right now it's Minnesota for me. That's who I want of the likely teams we play. I guess with Calgary or Minnesota. But yeah, I think that could change though after how we play against Minnesota these next 2 times. So we'll see.
Yeah, if they in those 2 games lose 10-0, I think we're saying, let's go down to the Pacific Division playoffs.
maybe, yeah.
I'll tell you what. Looking at that, getting into that bracket, and if we go that route, we'd have to play Calgary, and we beat Calgary, then we would have to beat either Edmonton or Los Angeles. I never want to play Los Angeles in a playoff series ever.
Yeah, tired of it.
That was That was a long time ago, and it's a different team now. But yeah, I'm with you. Too many bad memories.
Yeah, I mean, they still Jonathan Quick, and he's got, I think, one more dagger for us. Don't do it,
Jeff. Jason Miller, you got to straighten this guy out. He says, I don't want to see the Blues free fall like that, but I think the Blues would do very well in the Pacific against Calgary.
Why do I have to straighten him out? You mean I have to actually talk to him? I don't want to do that.
I don't know. I don't
like that guy.
He announced
he's
earlier
a crappy
that he's
goalie. I don't want to deal with him.
You got Calgary out there. You got LA out there. I don't mind the Edmonton matchup myself as much. A high octane top line in Edmonton will scares you against a defense that has been struggling this season, but still, Edmonton's got to prove to me they can do something when the games matter. They have not shown anything, so it's kind of like Colorado in a way. I mean, they haven't done jack squat in the playoffs the past so many years when they've been cup favorites. So until they can get it done and get over the hump in the playoffs, I'm not buying them as a playoff team either. We've seen this road with the Blues. The Blues are going down this road with the Stanley Cup favorites, a President's Trophy winning team, up in the top 3, 4, 5 in the league, whatever, and they fizzle out in the first or second round. So get it done. Prove to people that you can get it done before you go handing them the keys to the Stanley Cup.
Yep, I agree. That's how I feel about Colorado.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're a scary ass team, but they've been a scary ass team before, and they haven't done squat. So in the playoffs.
Yep. And every year we hear they got better. And yes, it's true, but every year we've seen the same result.
And as good as they looked against us last season, that first round, they were phenomenal. And then they lose round 2. So
yeah, I don't know. Just my last thought on the current standings. I want Vegas on the outside looking in when this whole thing's said and done.
Me too.
Oh
Although,
yeah,
wouldn't you like to
that
see Vegas play Colorado in the first round? Wouldn't that be kind of fun?
No,
I would
no.
love to see them
Tired of
beat the
tired
shit
of
out
that.
of each other. I'd love to see
Yeah.
them beat the shit out of each other, and one team limps into the second round. But at the same time, I think I'm with Bill. Talking about Kurt, talking about Toronto, the world burning. That's what you want to see.
Oh,
I want to see that with Vegas.
I love watching
Oh
Woburn.
God, them not making the playoffs after everything they did this year to try and circumvent the cap. Oh fucking A, let's see it.
And Petrangelo being the final piece of the puzzle there.
Yep, final piece to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, and who's having a down year for him at 33.
Yep.
So, yeesh.
God. I just looked at the East, and shit, Boston and Washington are the wild card teams.
Oof.
I know.
Holy shit.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you.
Tampa's third.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
good luck coming out of there.
Yeah.
Oof.
Matt Emlo, Matt Emlo 12 said in the YouTube chat, if we're going to do anything in the playoffs, we're going to have to face Colorado or Calgary eventually. So matchups don't mean that much to me, but I want home advantage. I think matchups mean something to me early on, just because upsets happen. And if a Colorado or a Calgary gets dumped in the first round, then you don't have to play them in the second round. So, I mean, there's always that hope that tough team that you might have to face gets bounced early. So, I mean, that's the only thing.
And this is obviously a baseball guy talking, but I remember in 2000 watching a Cardinals broadcast and hearing Al Roboski right as the playoffs were starting for the Blues, him saying something like, yeah, a lot of pressure on the Cardinals this year because, the Rams just won the Super Bowl. The Blues are going to win the Stanley Cup. So, what are the Cardinals going to do? Guess what? Blues lost in the first round that year to San Jose. Everybody had them picked to win the Cup that year. So anything can happen. And again, that's why we always say, every hockey person says, just
You
make the
gotta play the
playoffs.
game.
You never know what could happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing here is,
I mean,
yes, Colorado is odds-on favorite against whoever they play in the first round.
and they should be.
But there is that small chance that maybe they don't make it out of the first round.
Tampa Bay got swept by the Blue Jackets.
Right.
Yeah.
The year that
5 years ago, whatever it was.
They broke the regular season record that year.
Right. And that was like, that when that happened, it was like, strange things are happening this year. Maybe it's our year, and it was.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Let's keep hoped up for that. Carolina gets swept.
The Stanley Cup playoffs are so
Yeah.
unpredictable and goofy and fantastic and amazing. That's why. That's why I never really quite understood the mindset of some fans that if you're not a bubble team, but like there were some people that were rooting for the Blues to miss the playoffs or tank and miss it this year when and I'm like, no, I don't.
Sellers.
Yeah, should have been sellers at the deadline. I don't get that whatsoever. I mean, you get in and you have a blast, and then you worry about the offseason after that, after everything's done. To participate in the Stanley Cup playoffs is, you only live once. You're on this earth for how many, times around the sun, and how many Stanley Cup playoffs you're going to see. I want to see as many as I can. And I know people say, well, you want to make sure you have better teams in the future. Nothing's in stone there either. So you take your chances with Jing.
And I remember people talking in the 19 playoffs, like, they were playing Dallas, game 5 or whatever. And some of the conversation on social media was, what are we going to do with Bennington's contract being up? And why are you fucking thinking about that right now? The Blues are making a cup run. Like, think about that. Don't think about what's going to happen this summer. Why would you do that to yourself?
They do that all the time. They think like 15 steps ahead when Armstrong doesn't do that. He's not thinking. I mean,
Armstrong,
there's so many.
I guarantee you in the playoffs of 19, Armstrong was sitting there going, I'm going to worry about that shit later. This has been great to watch.
There's so many things that can happen between now and whenever some of these comments are talking about. It's just, I mean, there's so many games. There's injuries. There's free agent signing. There's streaks. There's players who decide they want to leave. There's whatever. There's all kinds of things can happen between now and when you want to sign a player. I don't like people like there was a question in the YouTube chat, and this is not a knock on the question, but it's an example of looking, I think, a little too far ahead. They were asking, what are you going to do with Thomas and Kyrou? And I'm like, and I'm looking, what do you mean? Oh, the contract's up in 2 years. So after next season, their contracts are up. I'm like, well, that's a scary thought, but that's a long ways away. A lot can happen between now and then with the salary cap, with how they're playing, with injuries.
Ryan O'Reilly's contract's up in that time.
Yeah.
So, you don't right now we're looking at it saying, God, I hope that Ryan O'Reilly doesn't leave this team. Maybe in that time, in 2 years, we're saying, holy shit, don't resign Ryan O'Reilly. He has regressed. You don't know what's going to happen.
Look what Jake Neighbors and Alexander Bolduc did.
Yeah. Jake Neighbors is a 100-point scorer in his rookie season.
There's the league is so fickle. We've talked about this before. So fickle, so up and down, so streaky. If you make major moves in preparation for a move or a signing 2 years from now, or even like next offseason or whatever it is, that's, you can screw yourself up. I mean, I don't understand. I think it's more of a wait and see with a lot of this stuff, because with how goaltending is for 1 year, one guy can be great. Look at Bobrovsky. Well, I talked about him before. He'll have one Vezina season, and then a mediocre season, then a Vezina season, then a mediocre season. He's up and down.
Verdict's maybe out on Binnington with that too. Maybe he's an every other season goalie.
You never know. Goaltending that's not uncommon for a goalie. You can look at a lot of good goalies that have been like hit or miss and not amazing every year and head down seasons. It's just the way it is, I think. And a lot of fans tend to give up on goalies too soon. Whatever. But I think in this case, you may have to make a decision in the offseason for, if you want to keep Husso around, and if there's a taker for Binnington, then what do you do? So this, like I said, fascinating offseason. So we'll see what they can do. I don't see any other comments in the chat. Yeah, some people saying no, avoid Calgary. They're good. Yeah, Matt Harris, a Leafs loss in the playoffs is the purest form of comedy. All right, and those guys, we can wrap it up.
I'll just one quick thing. I don't want to have another 20-minute conversation, but the Jay Beagle Coyotes situation. Do you guys have any thoughts on what happened there?
With the go ahead, Bill.
It's just this whole, I am on the side that says we don't need that shit in the game anymore, right? You don't beat up a player because he made a good play, right? That's, and I saw, Ryan Whitney did a thing today about how you'll never not need enforcers in the NHL. I didn't see it because I don't listen to him, but if the argument is at all, you need enforcers to keep that out of the game, that's bullshit. That is what fans want to see. Trevor Zegras is, he has had the balls to come in and make plays. And there's this Neanderthal mindset that I don't agree with. And I saw somebody else when they were retweeting the Whitney thing saying, if you talk to anybody who plays the game, they will agree with people like Ryan Whitney that the game needs these kinds of guys to keep things in order. Fucking Troy Terry's face got torn up for no good reason. Just stupid. If you got embarrassed, maybe you need to be better. That's the side I'm on.
100%. I agree with you. I'm a forward though.
So the only thing that I will refute that with, and I will say, Bill, I 100% agree that this game it's skill. We love skill. Let's see more skill. Let's see that kind of shit. Only caveat with that was Troy Terry did come up to Beagle and gave him the shove, like, leave my guy alone, and then Beagle beat his ass. I kind of felt like Troy Terry should have been a little bit more prepared. Like, you're going to come up to a guy and you're going to fucking challenge him. He's going to come right back at you. You have to be more ready. You have to be prepared to at least defend yourself and put your arms up and stop him from kicking your ass. And I feel like maybe Troy Terry was doing that, hoping to get a penalty, whatever. I don't know. But I did feel like he was a little bit too much of a victim in that situation. He could have done a little bit better to be prepared for a guy coming at him. But other than that, yes, I mean, I agree 100%. Jay Beagle, come on, man. Like, that's what they do in this game now, especially Trevor Zegras. We've seen him do it multiple times. By the way, on that goal, how beautiful was it to see Sonny Milano be like,
right.
let me just
Let me get out your way.
Yeah, that was awesome because he knew exactly what he was doing.
Did you hear the Coyotes broadcast?
Oh yeah, Tyson Nash.
Yeah,
right.
they were cheering it on.
Totally disgusting.
Yeah, they were applauding Jay Beagle for cross-checking Zegras and beating Troy Terry. It's a joke. I mean,
right. And I will agree. Like, if you're going to go up and challenge a guy, you're going to challenge a guy, right? If you're
be ready
for
anything.
Going, right, if you're going in there to defend your guy, you don't just get one punch knockdown, right? That should not happen.
Yeah, he should have been more ready. Like, all right, buddy, you want to come after my guy? Not saying he needs to drop him, just saying, all right, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to knock your ass down. You know, just kind of jumping in and being like, hey, don't do that. You know, that's not how it works. You know, you're not. It's like Jay Beals and be like, "You're right. I'm sorry. Let me back off." You know, like there was a little bit, I think, on Troy Terry's side, not to blame the victim, but just kind of be like, be a little more prepared because he's going to come at you with fire. He just went after your teammate. He's going to come at you too.
Light Sound Geometry in the YouTube chat makes a good point. Tyson Nash was a turtler. And here he is advocating. We know that better than anybody, right. Seeing him come up, right? He knew how to talk shit and take a punch and go down. So yeah,
that was the conversation in my locker room the other night. Was somebody said Tyson Nash of all people to say that, and I go, yeah, you know, he was like, I'm gonna beat your ass, but hey, wait, read low, take care of this for me,
right? And I didn't get to hear it last night when I was driving. I was listening to the game on my way home on the radio, and Kerber was starting to get into it when Barbashev scored. And I didn't think I was going to agree with Kerber at his point, and he never got to it, at least while I was listening. But I think his overexposure to Kelly Chase over the last 12 years I pretty much knew where he was going to go with it, and I wasn't going to agree. So
what was the punch from behind? Who was that on?
Steve Moore.
Oh no! I mean just this season. It was
Taylor Hall and
yes,
yeah,
Taylor Hall.
I don't remember who was on.
And Chase commented. I mean, there was a serious injury to that, right? But and Chase commented right after, and he was like, he touched him on the face with his fingers, you know, and he didn't understand the outrage about it. And I'm like, you know, I mean, loved Kelly Chase as a player. He was such a fun guy to watch play, but someone needs to take his Twitter away. He is embarrassing himself on Twitter left and right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's definitely in the get off my lawn camp.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
That'll do it. I'm done. Like I said, anybody still listening who maybe missed the start of the show, if you're not doing anything Friday, come join us. Apparently, we're doing a little Let's Go Blues Radio get together over at Four Hands Brewery right off 44 downtown. We're going to be there before the game, and then the three of us are going to hang out during the game and watch it there. So, Four Hands Brewery downtown, 5 o'clock-ish until the end of the game. Yeah. So come out and see us. Say hi. One of us will buy you a beer, I'm sure. Tell Tell them Let's Go Blues Radio sent you, right?
I'll
Don't
have
think that works there.
I'll have some stickers. I'll have some stickers too. So we'll bring some stickers in.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We'll get some stickers out if anybody wants some.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by ID Life, the world's truly only personalized vitamin platform based on a health assessment of your DNA. Visit rockinthatidlife.com for more information. That's rockinthatidlife.com and get 10% off by emailing Dustin at rockinthatidlife@gmail.com and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you. And by Center Ice Brewery, St. Louis's tasty hockey-themed beer. Check out your local beer vendors for availability at Center Ice Brewery Beer. Please drink responsibly. That'll wrap up this episode of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thanks for listening, and thanks to those who participated in the YouTube and Facebook live chats during the live show. Had a lot of action tonight. Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. For Jeff Ponder and Mo Day, I'm Kurt Price. Until next time, everyone, suck it, Minnesota. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Sport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available. A look at sports. I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
I want you to have a heart attack and die so that we never have to do this shit again.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to #1. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues. The Blues are on the ice tonight again. They're rough and tough and got the stuff to win. They'll always get one more, no matter what the